Our last video we talked about how to find the volume of any prism where we were given the area of the base. And we started off by saying our formula for volume was simply the base area times the height of the prism. So now when I look at this rectangular prism that I have here, I'm not given a base area. Okay, I don't have a base area drawn in for me. So I need to do that part myself. So when I'm looking at the height of the rectangular prism, generally we classify it as length along the bottom, width along the side here, and then height is the third dimension going from the bottom to the top right here. Okay, so I've already got the height taken care of. The height I know should be 2 centimeters. And what that leaves me with is my base area probably has to come from this 6 and this 3. Okay, so when we're looking at this three-dimensional shape, generally we tend to think of our base area as being kind of this bottom that's sitting on the ground. Okay, so if I add in some kind of dotted lines to show what that looks like, I would generally think of my base as being this rectangle right here. And this rectangle is made up of the length and the width in the rectangular prism. So my base area is really the area of a rectangle. Okay. This is the area of a rectangle, and in my rectangular prism, my base has to be a rectangle. So I'm going to then say, well, how do I get the base area? I'm going to take the length times the width, and after I find that base area of length times width, I'm going to multiply afterwards by that height. So really, how do I find the volume of this shape? I go length times width times height. That's where the formula comes from. Okay, and it's because my base area is the area of this rectangle here, and the area of a rectangle is length times width. After I've found the base area, I can find the volume by multiplying by the height, which is right there. Now I've got it written here with the length times width in brackets, but the brackets are not necessary. It doesn't matter. I'm allowed to multiply in whatever order I like. Multiplication is commutative. That means we can swap the position of any two things and still get the same answer. And since all I'm doing is multiplying, that's the only operation there is, I could remove those brackets. Okay, they were just there to show that the length times width is how I get the area of the rectangle. Well, now I'm just going to substitute in my numbers. So I've got 6 times 3 times 2. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 times 2 gives us 36. So we get 36. And then remember, for our units, it's going to be centimeters cubed. Okay, there we go. There's our volume of the rectangular prism. Okay, now I'm going to show you, I have the same prism here. Okay, and I just want to show you a rectangular prism is special. I could look at any of my rectangles and say it was the base. So let's say I picked this rectangle on the side instead of being on the bottom. Okay, so let's say I picked this one here, the one on the side, as my base. Okay, so if I was thinking base area times the height of the prism, in this case, because I've said my base area is here, and normally I know you say, well, the height has to be this one. The height is really the distance that connects one base to the other. So if I say that that rectangle on the side is my base, the rectangle on its opposite side is the other base, the height is now the 6 centimeters that connects one base to the other. So my base area now would be the 2 times 3, and my height would be the 6, the remaining dimension not used in my base area. And if I was to go in a different order than we did last time, 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 6, I still get 36 centimeters squared. Now that's because I said multiplication is commutative, right? And that means if I move these around and switch spots, I'm still going to get the same thing because all I'm doing is multiplying. So in a rectangular prism, it's actually really hard to mess up the volume. You multiply all three dimensions together. Generally, we think of it as length and width as being our base because that's generally the side that's on the bottom of the shape. Okay? But you're not wrong if you take a different base and switch things around. So let's look at a couple more examples. So starting off here, I'm going to say that volume is equal to the base area times the height of the prism. And my base area in a rectangular prism is going to be length times width, and then I multiply by the height after. So I get length times width times height. My length would be 6 going along the front. My width would be the 18 going along this dimension here. And my height would be 8 going from the bottom to the top there. 6 times 8 gives us 108. And then 108 times 8 gives us 864, and this would be meters cubed. Remember, our units are cubed that we're putting on. Okay, let's do another one. What about if there's decimals involved? Does our process change? Well, our volume would start off as base area times the height, and if we look at this, it's a rectangular prism. The area then is going to be of a rectangle, and so I'm going to go length times width times height, and that's 10 times 1.5 times 12. 10 times 1.5 is 15, and 15 times 12 is 180. So we get 180 centimeters, and we throw cubed off after our centimeters. Okay. What about something like this? So what if we were only given 2 dimensions? Right, I'm only given a 7.5 and I'm given a 12. But remember this one here up top, it says, oh, hey, the top and the bottom must be a square because all those guys are the same length. So same idea, volume is equal to the base area times the height. The base area in a rectangular prism, we're going to go length times width because that's how we find the area of a rectangle. And we're going to multiply by the height. The length and the width here, length and width, both happen to be 7.5. So we'll go 7.5 times 7.5 times 12. 7.5 times 7.5 is 56.25, and we multiply by 12. And that gives us 675. Our units here are millimeters, so we'll throw millimeters cubed. So volume of rectangular prisms, very simple. The length times the width times the height. Multiply all three of your numbers together, and you got it.